later on after we get a chance to chop it up with Anthony Beck. But I want to talk about Texas Tech and what's happening there and how it's sort of beginning to turn college football on its ear. Texas Tech, a huge win over the weekend against, obviously, Utah in a ranked battle, right, out in Salt Lake City. I think Texas Tech kind of took advantage of that, that early start, the 10 a.m. start in Salt Lake. I felt like Devin Dampier and the Utah offensive attack never really got the car out of the garage. But a big reason why is because of that Texas Tech defense. Texas Tech is now in the mix for a national championship. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why they are and why I feel good about it. And it starts with D. And does it end with E? I think it does. Defense, right? They've given up 11 points a game. I don't care who you're playing. You went on the road in a hostile environment, and you took it to Utah, another ranked team, on the biggest stage, the biggest opportunity you have had all season long. So from what we've seen from Texas Tech this year, we've seen exactly what we thought was possible. What's that? Well, it's a defense now that is just as explosive as its offense, which, oh, by the way, is averaging 52 points a game right now at this point in the season. Okay, the team ascends to, I think they are ranked 11th in the country. Yeah, they're ranked 11th in the AP poll, right? Is it 11th or 12th? 11th. So they're 11th in the AP poll. That is something that I think the Blue Bloods feared, and I think is freaking them out right now, because this is not, and we talked about this on the Green and Gold show a little bit. What this reminds me of as a young guy, not anymore, but when I was a young guy and I was obsessed with football, and I really didn't live through it. I lived through the tail end of it, but I had always heard about it. I certainly lived through the sanctions, right? And I'm talking about SMU and the death penalty. And even as a little kid from afar, that story ascended to, I'm watching World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, and he's telling me about the SMU program, the football program, which had all the bells and whistles, right? They truly did. Ron Meyer, the sexy, charismatic, not sexy like that, but you got it. This charismatic head coach. He was always so well-dressed, so slick. And he oversaw this program with the likes of Eric Dickerson and Craig James, and a thumping after thumping after thumping of opponents. And people were like, where the hell do these guys come from? They don't have the pedigree for this. They don't have the history for this. Now, are they abiding by the rules? No, they weren't, right? So that got thrown out with the bathwater in about 2 or 3 years. And it was a huge story. And the death penalty set that program back, you could say, a decade. And maybe what Rhett Lashley said after their loss in the Iron Skillet to TCU set him back a little bit more. No, I'm just kidding. He was super passionate, and he should have been. I have no problem with those post-game comments. I think he's just a passionate. I think anytime you take something a coach says after a game and you try to encapsulate it and define that coach by those comments, give me a break, dude. That's like a very intense situation, period. I've been a PR guy before an NBA coach goes out to talk to the media, and there's really only so much you can do. If a guy's got something on his mind that he wants to say, he'll say it. I had one time where I told Maurice Cheeks, when he was a head coach of the Sixers, he had an NBA entertainment lav mic on. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I've gone on the record saying I was not a good PR guy. And I told Coach Cheeks, hey, Coach, it was after we beat the Pistons in the playoffs. I said, hey, Coach, you have a lav mic on right now, which he knew. I was just trying to fill the air with comments that I thought were important. This is before he talked to the team in the locker room after a playoff win. Coach, hey, take it easy. Don't swear. He looks at me. He's like, okay, dude. And then he flies F-sharp talking to the team. And then the next day he pulled me into his office and in no uncertain terms told me never to tell him how to talk to his team again post-game. So, or the media. So that was a lesson for me to learn real quickly, that there's no getting in the way of an impassioned coach and what he's going to say to the media after a game. That's why they have a cooling off period, and that's why the cooling off period should probably be longer so coaches can get cooler. But when we look at Texas Tech, right, what they're doing right now is upsetting the apple cart, right? They're not a blue blood. And I mentioned the statistics, right? I have it written down here, 52 points a game, holding opponents to 11 points a game. Now, here's something scarier. for folks that are all over the country clutching their pearls, right? Alabama, Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, the only team that spent more money than Texas Tech. And oh, by the way, next year, Texas Tech has the #1 recruiting class in the Big 12 coming in. Guys like Felix Ojo, okay? This is not a one and done. And I can promise you, Cody Campbell and the folks in Lubbock are going to find creative legal ways, okay, to use NIL to their advantage. When the cap begins, right, and puts a ceiling on exactly how much you can kind of dole out payroll-wise, they will still be able to tap into the magnificent resources they have through guys like Cody Campbell. There's another billionaire whose name escapes me right now, but he was, him and his wife oversaw the Nyjah Kennedy, right? The $1 million arm, the softball pitcher at Texas Tech. That's another thing too. A rising tide lifts all ships. At Texas Tech, it's not just like they're giving money to the football team, okay? Football, basketball. Grant McCaslin is ready to make a run to the championship. And JT Toppin might be the best player in the country. He returns to Texas Tech, not somebody who they poached out of the transfer portal. Okay, Texas Tech is on a heater. And if you don't want to acknowledge it, if you don't want to believe it, if it makes you uncomfortable, I got news for you. Suck it up, dude, because they're not going anywhere. I look at the rest of their schedule. This is the one thing that I believe could get in Joey McGuire's way this year. Okay, you have, and I'll just read off their schedule. At Houston, at a bye. Texas Tech they're coming off a bye. At Houston, right? That's going to be a tough game, but I think it'll be a win, especially off a bye. You get Kansas at home. That should be a win, although the Jayhawks look pretty good right now. Arizona State on the road. That's a tough game. Oklahoma State at home. We know that one. Kansas State on the road. We know that one. BYU at home could be tough. UCF at home. We're not sure yet. And then away on the road against West Virginia, they should be able to handle that. But I bring up their schedule because it's like the 22nd or 20th hardest in the nation, according to ESPN. And the Big 12 is on a heater, by the way. 7-1 against the ACC this year, and I think it's like 8-1 against Power 4 conferences. It's a real good look right now for the Big 12, and the distance between the Big 12 and the ACC, the gap has continued to widen. Another thing I think you can really tip your cap to Joey McGuire and his staff for, and I just talked about Shield Wood and his defense, but offensively, like Will Hammond coming in the football game and then going 13 of 16 with 2 touchdowns. And I think it was, I wrote that down, 2 touchdowns, over 200 yards. He ran for 62 yards and no interceptions. That shows like depth and coaching and recruiting, and is another sign that this program is going to be here to stay. Guys like Cameron Dickey emerging, having an absolutely huge game. We saw Devin Dampier, one of the most athletic quarterbacks, not just in the Big 12, but in the country. He could not, we had talked about it last week, right? What can Texas Tech do? By the way, Utah has 2 first-round picks on their offensive line, okay? That Shield Wood and his defense made Utah look pedestrian. And let's not even get into literally the storyline that was gift wrapped for Fox Sports. Okay. Jacob Rodriguez is out there dominating, makes a one-handed interception after playing an amazing game, puts the cherry on top of the sundae, right? And again, this was a blowout on the road against a ranked team. And it showed me that Texas Tech isn't just, they're annihilating teams. I wrote this down too. Their overall, they're 208 to 45. They're beating teams this year. That's their 208 to 45. These are the signs of a team that is quite ready to steamroll. But back to the Jacob Rodriguez thing. He's making a one-handed interception. The game is on Fox, which Fox loves this. His wife, who he married, I think they met at his first stop, which was, I want to say Virginia. So he meets his wife, right? She's still, I think she's stationed somewhere. Oh, I think she's actually in Manhattan, Kansas. And she actually missed her flight, or her flight got delayed. So she had to drive to Kansas City and then fly to the game in Salt Lake. She flies Black Hawk helicopters for the U.S. Army. I mean, can you not get behind this Texas Tech squad? Pretty good stuff. And the Big 12, like I said, on an absolute heater. And you got to love when I was in Waco, Joey McGuire, hired by Matt Rule, had a pipeline, right, as far as recruiting in Texas. And the dude can coach his ass off, and we're seeing it now. So good for him and good for Texas Tech. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. The Pete Souza Show is presented by Slovaceks. We got one of the best.